On this episode of Nerdy Romantics Podcast, we will continue our discussion of You, Season 5, which is the final season of this thriller show. We'll continue talking about the Lockwoods, in particular, Reagan and Maddie, who's played by Amanda Camp. We'll talk Joe Goldberg's son, Henry, what we think about him, and we'll talk about the last episode and the ending of the series. Did we like it? Did we not? And in that same vein, we're giving this one a Goodreads rating to cap it all off. As with the last episode, this one contains spoilers. So, spoiler alert. If you have watched You or you just want to continue with the discussion, stay tuned. This is the Nerdy Romantics Podcast, and I'm your host, Y.M. Nelson. Yeah. So since we kind of did a roundabout talking about Kate, but that's okay. Let's talk about the Lockwoods. Now, I really don't have too much to say about the Lockwoods. I will just say this. I will say that we haven't already said. I will say that the one bright or the one good thing that about this series is Amanda Camp playing Maddie and Reagan Lockwood. The acting chops, I'm going to agree with Marcy in the beginning where she was like, the acting chops is just amazing. I just hate that it's in this, which everything else is meh to crap. But she did amazingly in this, especially in that scene where the bathroom scene, yes, that was one. And the second was the cage where she had to. Both of those scenes were like, oh my gosh, this is wow. It was almost like, I know I haven't seen Sinners yet, but I know a lot of people have seen Sinners, and they love the smoke and stack kind of back and forth there.
Spoilers for
don't give it spoilers.
I'm just saying, I haven't seen it. There's no way I can do a spoiler. I haven't seen it. I don't know. I have not seen it, but everybody knows that Michael B. Jordan plays two people. It's on the poster.
Yeah.
But a lot of people say he was great in that. So Ada, okay, very good. Yeah,
he was extremely good in that.
Stop, Stacey.
But I'm not going to go into detail. I'm just saying.
I can't put Joe back in the box. I can't put Joe back in the box. Can I mute her?
But going into that, seeing that, and then seeing her Amanda Camp and her twin thing, it's like, I'm gonna be honest, she's not as good as him, but she was good.
She was good.
She was good, and I think, like you said, in the cage thing, but also when she was behind the door in the bathroom, when she was playing the sister, playing the other sister,
right?
While knowing the other sister's dead to the other sister.
And she's traumatized by the fact that, this is happening and about killing her, so
in line to the person
in line, right?
Two people she loved the most, because really,
exactly,
you can see the look on her face where she wanted to, oh my gosh, my bad, and then she's like, why the hell, she had to go mean and do all that, be her sister. So she was really good. I think she was good.
I liked her too. I enjoyed her character. I actually enjoyed her part of the story. I thought was most interesting, to the point just like you said, Yvonne, with the whole cage thing, I was clocking it, honey. I was like, let me look and make sure that when I see her, and that I'm also seeing her reflection of her sister standing up. Because I
Yeah.
was like, since it's really only one person, am I still going to be, are they going to have a stand in for her, or whatever they're going to do? So that in the reflection, I see two people, and they did. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, okay, y'all got it. So I enjoyed her too. The only thing I will say that I didn't enjoy is the BS with the diabetes, because I think girl hadn't eaten for I don't know how long, hadn't had her
Right.
pen, had nothing. And at first she was sitting there like she was sickly. But 2 seconds later, after that,
She
she
was up.
jumps up and she's all angry and I was like, yeah, no, no,
Right.
no, no.
No, you're
So
not
I
like
was
that.
like, the
Yeah.
diabetes again, trying to make it convenient to give her a way to kill inside, I guess, of the cage or whatever. But I was like, not buying that. We got to do something better about that. But no, I did. I will say, I'm thinking about it, of all the characters, I would say from season 5, she would have been my favorite. She was the most enjoyable to watch.
Yeah. Marcy, what did you think about the twins?
Agree with everything that's been said. Her portrayal was spot on. I think it got a little hinky at the end when trying to, is it Maddie? Is it Reagan? Is it Maddie? Is it Reagan? Oh wait, maybe Reagan's part got a little bit convoluted. But overall, I think that it was, I think she played that really well. I mean, that's a complex thing to do, to be your sister, then pretend to be your sister, then pretend to be yourself, then to go back and forth in all that space to show the true torment she was going through. I really do. I think it was really well done. And I think if maybe we had stopped with that storyline, maybe we didn't need 15 others. Maybe that alone, I thought that's where we were going, and then that fell off because now we got. I think that's where I started to give up. Mm-hmm. Is because that storyline was already going somewhere else. And then they put a pin in it and went all the way over here to Shenanigan Town, and then kind of circled back and had her show up at the door. I was like, this is too much. So I feel like they could have done more, because she could have done more. Her range and performance could have been more, but I think they kind of dropped her and moved on something else. And I think that was probably, to me, the biggest missed opportunity, was that they finished that storyline out a lot more thoroughly than the epilogue, which was a hot darn mess. How do you really explain that to a child? Like, it just, that makes sense. It's too much. It was just too much. And I think that was a
Yeah.
missed opportunity. I wish that they more with her and her talent. I would have preferred to see, like I said, if they had just had her come back to the cage, Kate B, come back to the bookstore, to the door, be downstairs, because now you got somebody who understood what it was like to be in the cage. Like that, I think would have, that was cohesive to me. That made sense. I didn't need the other 5 women that were in there. And I think that, to me, is probably what I think was the biggest missed opportunity. One of the biggest missed opportunities was not leveraging someone who was killing it, like, and instead in choosing these random, cameo appearances for the sake of tying the story up.
Yeah. Just for a, I don't know, podcaster's note or whatever. So there is kind of like with some of the HBO Max bigger shows, they do one of those little after show things for each episode, kind of explaining. So there is, and I just found it today, right before
Oh,
recording, there is little kind of explanations from the show people, producers, the actors, those a little slice of a behind the scenes of each episode. And the reason why I'm saying this is because Dana was talking about how she was tracking, and they were showing the cage scene and how they filmed the cage scene. And yes, she does have a double that is acting with her, and that double also plays not just her double, but also plays a podcast host, which we didn't really see, because that was just kind of like that was part of that whole you know part of Dominique and the friend trying to explain whatever about, whatever's going on. She also plays the person that's interviewing them or whatever. But anyway, I liked, obviously, the twins. As far as the other Lockwoods go, I thought Teddy would be more of he was the moral compass, like we've already said. I thought he would be a little more, but he also felt like a tack on a little bit too. Obviously, Kate is the whole reason why Joe's there and everything. But everybody else, as far as the Lockwoods go, they're just damaged to me. All of them are damaged, but some of them are really good. Are really cool to watch. And I just think that the standout of the Lockwoods was the twins, which were played by Amanda Camp. I really don't even remember the husband's name. God, he seemed whiny.
But he was just like, again, he was just whatever. He wasn't
right.
Filler
he
husband.
wasn't a main character to me.
Yeah, a filler husband. Just, pretty face that she married.
Right, exactly. So, and I can't remember their child's name. I can't even remember. Gretchen, I think. Oh, stop!
One thing I didn't like about the husband is he was so stupid. Like, this guy who is about to murder you is saying, "Hey, I'll let you go if you don't tell on me," basically. And he's like, "Well, no, I got to tell."
Right. I was like, where was the logic in that? Like, get out.
Exactly. Oh my God,
he had absolutely no survival instinct whatsoever.
None at all.
I'm like, if I'm on the raft, no, you are not going to be on the raft. Okay.
He was,
yeah. When it's a dystopian future, you are not going to be there with us. But although he's not really a Lockwood, I will say that even though Henry is also, to me, kind of one of the, not a filler character, but also kind of doing the same thing that the women are doing, like pulling us through, because we know that Henry is the son from season 3, and he's the whole reason why Joe is supposed to be better or whatever. The only thing that really kind of, I guess, interested me, and they shut it down really quickly, was when Henry hit Gretchen. And I was thinking, and I don't know if y'all were thinking this, but I was thinking
he can
was he going to be like a bad seed? I thought
he had two serial killer parents. Think about it. Now, Love she had that serial killer instinct. Joe did a lot of the killing for.
No, but she kills right before Joe came in.
Exactly, she killed too for pretty much the same reason. Because didn't she kill
her first husband?
Right.
Oh, the nanny. The person was taking care of her brother or whatever.
Exactly. She killed the nanny because the nanny was abusing the brother.
And then she also killed her husband. Her first husband. So it's like, I was thinking the same thing, and then I'm glad they kind of step away from that, because we don't need another
we don't
line. And then my thing is like, did he really love his son, or he just saw just a way to raise himself that, I guess,
redemption. I
don't even know if it's redemption. Is more like, I don't know if it's really redemption. Is like, maybe it is redemption. Just, I could have been better if I didn't have this happen to me. But I don't know if he really saw his son as a person, outside of himself, kind of. I'm not sure if he really saw.
I know what you're saying, like an extension or a second chance to do better.
As in,
as in him,
not
to do
actually
better.
Being Henry, but this is Joe number 2.0.
Joe number 2.0. Yes,
I'm not sure. I couldn't really tell, but it wasn't. I think they were also trying to use that to, I guess, more humanize Joe, that he loved his son, and all that kind of stuff. But it was like,
I think they were trying to give him something outside of himself that he truly loved. Maybe slightly as much as himself. I'm not sure.
I don't know. Like, Marcy said, like earlier, we are talking about he was doing things, and then his son didn't come to his mind. It seemed he was spending so much time with Bronte. Where the hell was his son? You
But
know,
like, but I
until he
think,
got taught was going to be taken away from him. Then it's like,
but that's what I was
that's my
gonna say.
son.
I think the writing was to give Joe something to latch on to, because I felt like, to your point and what you were just saying with them taken away. Otherwise, he had nothing. He has nothing that he really cares anything about. So I don't. It wasn't a believable latch on, right? Because we've never seen him interact with this kid before, right?
Except
So
Redo.
like, didn't nobody believe that you really love your son and all this? I think they put it there though because they wanted us to feel like he had something that he really cared about and was willing to do whatever he could to get back into it. But I never believed that because he wasn't like. I felt like Kate raised his son more than he did in the little time that
I
we even
think
saw
so
the
too.
kid.
I
And
think.
so I was like, this is bull. Like,
Well, to me, I think it was like you're saying that Kate raised him more than anything else. I think it's him. He thought of fatherhood like he thought of being in love. He liked the idea of it. He wanted the experience of falling in love. He wanted the experience of trying to act like a good father, but I don't think he was really parenting.
right.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
that's, oh, I'm tired now. It's like, I'm tired of Joe.
Okay, so since we are tired of Joe, let's talk about this ending and what we thought about the ending, and then we'll give it an overall Goodreads rating. But we kind of talked a little bit already about the ending, but y'all, what did you think? And what I'm saying with the ending is I'm saying the last episode, the just that episode and what happened, and then the epilogue aftermath, and then what Joe says to us. So questions I have: was it a feminist ending, or was it a commentary on how much we love violence? And also, like I said, there are some little producer slash actor commentary things out there. And their question was, when they were creating this ending, is what does Joe Goldberg deserve? So, Marcy, we're talking about the ending. And Dana, so what did you think about the ending, or were you just done, or were you disgusted? I mean, what's going on in your mind about this last episode and the epilogue parts?
So I thought it was draggy. Like they kind of had us fooled. I thought he was dead and he was gonna be and it was gonna be over, but then it wasn't. And then honestly, like I didn't like it, but the epilogue I think messed it up even more. Like I don't like that whole tied in a neat bow because it's not real. It's not real life. So like I already mentioned this. Kate still being alive is a no go for me. It doesn't make any sense. All the chicken fight again, I'm gonna say that Bronte and Joe had was just back and forth going on. She dead? No, she ain't. Then I don't know. I live in a different world than these people. So when she's out there, she shoots Joe in the woods with a gun, and then the cops just come up and stop her. She would have been shot. I don't know any other way. In my mind, had
That's
that been
where I
me,
thought it was
they'd been
She
headed.
she looked a little. She
shot.
looked. They all looked a little different from
You
Hmm.
us.
know, I was just
That's
Right.
all I'm trying to say.
Because I was like, oh, good, they're gonna kill her. He's gonna get away. Okay, this is gonna make sense because this is who Joe is to the end. But no, we flipped it into shenanigans.
And then
Because
so
she discharged her gun. In my world,
yes,
you're right.
she was,
Hmm.
and then the whole ending with the like prison scene and him getting letters from women who, I don't. It just the only real thing that should have happened to Joe is he should have died. I don't know any better way that you don't get to kill all of these people and then just spend your life rotting away in prison. Like that's not, especially because we know you've escaped everything you've been in. Nobody escapes death. So seeing that, I'm like, you could come back next year and tell me, Kate got him out so he could be with his son and did like. So I'm just like, he, like, and what we've seen of the justice system is pretty crappy in this show, right? So who's to
Hmm.
say that he's gonna spend more than the biggest aha was that he shaved his head, y'all. That was the only thing I could get out of
Right.
this.
He didn't have the
Wow,
curls
he
anymore.
cut his hair short, and all I was thinking was the real person, not even the character. I was like, oh my god, he shaved his hair for this show, and it won't even be good. But other than that, now you asked if it was feminist, and I'm trying to think to myself, what about it? Like, I'm trying to think, and maybe I need y'all to tell me, what about it may have struck some people as feminist with the
I
ending?
think it's because the women won
Because the women won.
and he's in jail and they're all out thriving despite having encountered him. And Ronte said he'll just be some guy I dated. He doesn't define me.
And see, that's
I mean, all of it
next
was
thing you know,
because if
she
it
gonna
was
be
that
having
real,
PTS. There's
it would have
nobody. He
been in the
doesn't
show and
define
not in
her.
the epilogue. I
Let's
feel
be
like for
true.
me, in my mind, I thought they were gonna shoot her. He was gonna get away, and it would end like the show moved. But I think in this moment of him getting what he deserved, none of us got what we deserved, which was a consistent ending that was consistent with the story we had seen to that point. Because I'm supposed to believe that Joe was just, I mean, the only consistent thing was Joe when that letter came and he was like, oh, it's not me, it's you. That was consistent. But the women in between, nothing about that was, she goes to the bar to meet Teddy. Teddy was consistent. I was proud of Teddy. Teddy did what she couldn't do. But other than that, I forgot Marianne's name and that she had been an artist. So because before they explain what happens for her thing, you just see the painting, and I was like, "What's that?" Like it didn't even connect. That's what I was looking at until they zoomed in on the bottom and was like, "That Marianne is now a thriving artist," and I was like, "Well, great," but it didn't. It, if we had put a little more time into the ending, those scenes wouldn't have been in the epilogue, and maybe that would have made episode 10 feel better to me. Like if it had, we spent a long time in episode 10 watching them roam around a house that wasn't even theirs. At some point, we could have streamlined the whole fight scene, made that a little faster, got to the woods, done all that, and then spent more time on the after instead of putting the after in a post-credit scene that also felt rushed and out of place. And
right. None of us believes that these people walked out and lived their best lives after this. Like, it's just to me, it seemed
right,
like Kate even walking in with her little off the shoulder, whatever she was wearing,
right,
outfit,
right, taking her sweater off to show her
like that.
scars and be proud. I was
That
like,
looked like maybe
Scars.
something that happened 2 days later, but then the rest of her life was miserable because they found out all the other stuff she'd been involved in. She ended up in jail. I mean, it was so
right,
unrealistic. Like,
But
and
one of the
also
things you
Henry
just
looked
said
crazy.
about being at that house, because that was an Airbnb, right? Well,
Right.
Airbnb don't have anything to indicate somebody coming in and out their house. It was an Airbnb.
Again, girl,
That was
no,
also something.
Yeah.
But how I felt about the ending
Warning
is
to Airbnb owners.
stop
That's
leaving
what
your
it
back
was.
door open.
Yeah, right. That was a cautionary tale for all
Just walk
Airbnb
in the
owners.
back.
but I
Don't
liked the ending because it ended, and I knew that was the last one. But I knew he wasn't gonna die because they made too much money on it to kill him off. They go so that they can leave the door open for something else. So I knew he wasn't going to die. I mean, I'm not saying I don't want them to do another, but I knew they weren't going to do it, leave it so that they was totally closed to them. So I knew they was going to live, but just for that. But the fact that they didn't kill her, I thought about the same things. Like she had a gun. Even the police stopped. I was like, look at her. They're not going to shoot him.
She was drowned. She was drowned.
She was drowned.
And she was drowned and
And
came back.
shot. Right. Yeah.
Drowned. Impossible white woman. Because
Yep.
they did all of it.
And then she out walking, looking like Felicity with her bad weave, walking down the thing, or Sex in the City moment.
I did know that she got a new hair.
The City moment.
She did.
That was a Carrie moment. That was a Carrie moment.
My name is Louise. I was like, great, but I don't care. I mean, it was really, and then they rushed what happened to Joe, and then rushed to that jail scene, and it was the end of a bad show.
Well, to me, the jail scene when he reads the stuff and he's like, "It's not so and so, it's you," and I was thinking they're talking to all of us who've been
They're talking to
watching
us.
this,
They
and
are.
especially the ones who love Joe the entire time. They're talking to y'all because y'all,
We are the problem.
we're the
Yeah.
problem. We're the one writing this criminal in jail saying, "I don't believe that you're." I mean, it basically
Yeah.
when that end of it made me realize that's how all these women who be
Mhm.
talking to serial killers in jail. We've been
Yeah.
doing the
Right in
whole thing for
Manson.
5
Yeah.
seasons watching this.
Yeah.
It's the same.
Yeah.
It's the same
I
way.
clearly admit, because I think we talked about this in maybe the first episode, but like,
Yeah.
or the first season, definitely that first season, maybe up through 3. Like, we were all like, we would have been making excuses. We'd been like, yeah,
Yes.
I know he murdered her, but it was for the good of everybody else. And he, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But I
So
promise you, none of us saw ourselves in that scene when he was reading that letter. I'm sure none of us thought that we were that
No,
No.
but at
person.
the time I was
no,
thinking
we were
No.
not
that
that
was us
person.
season
Right.
1. That,
No,
Right.
that's what I'm saying. In season
Right.
one, we didn't.
but
We were
I'm
like,
just saying,
yeah.
if you had somebody still
Right
loving
now, no.
Joe by season 5, they were the ones who wrote that letter.
I
Right.
mean, because it was bad. I mean, and it was. Oh, I
In
had
my
high
mind, the
hopes.
woman who wrote that letter only met Joe in season 5, because ain't no way she knew him through all 5 seasons and still
Right.
wrote that letter.
Right.
So two things. Two things. The first is what I thought. So I did not like the ending either. Yeah, I did feel it was too, rah rah for the women who survived kind of thing. And I didn't see any of them on a therapist's couch. And y'all know how I am all about mental health representation. I'm like, these women need to be on somebody's couch,
Mhm.
right? They
Yep.
need
Yep.
to be talking about this. We don't just
I don't know. Beck was on somebody's couch. I'm just saying. Thank
well,
you.
that was and she was on somebody's couch, but then she was also on somebody's couch. Now that's a
Right.
totally different thing. And and that dude, is he still in? No, did he get out? Yes,
Yeah,
he
he
did get out
got
after.
out.
Okay,
His son did, but he made it.
right, but he made it. Yeah.
Yay.
But this was just kind of me personally, kind of how I felt about what was going to happen. But when I saw Bronte kind of do her waffling thing in episodes, I guess episode 7 or where she was like where she did the waffling thing, like I think I really like Joe kind of thing.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I knew
Uh-huh.
she wasn't going to do it, but what would have been what I was kind of rooting for until I saw her breakdown was I was like, this would have been good if she really had stuck to her whole, I want to see Joe fall, that she
Mhm.
ends up killing him, because she also had this kind of I'm okay with you being a serial killer vibe,
Right.
especially when they were talking about the writing and stuff. I was kind of looking for that to happen, like her to find her inner serial killer.
Me
I don't know what.
too.
Uh-huh.
Me
I was kind of
too.
looking for it
Me
because
Because
I
the
too.
was
next
like,
season was going to be called Me. This is what I just, me in my mind, I was like, this is what's going to be happening. I'm serious.
okay, I'm so glad I'm not the only one that was thinking that. But
No, I thought.
that would have been a little more thrilling, right? To see her kind of do that, kind of flip and be like, her be the serial killer kind of thing. But when I saw that she was kind of like halfway in love and all this other kind of stuff, I was like, yeah, she's not the one. But then when she started doing the self commentary in the last episode, I was like, maybe she gonna, get that whole, vibe going. Maybe she's on the way to doing that. But instead, we have them have, like Marcy said, the longest fight ever, which was boring. And then, the police running around and, she shoots him in the groin. And that's supposed to be, that's actually supposed to resonate with us. Okay. No, it doesn't. We don't care. Because actually, you don't really necessarily see that. You only really know that it happened because they're saying it in the aftermath,
That
and they're
part.
making jokes about it on TikTok. So do we
Cardi B.
even care? You know, but
I didn't.
so
He was
that
still
was
alive. I didn't care anymore. I mean, he still didn't
right.
die. It
He's
didn't matter
still
where she shot him. It wasn't really clear in the scene that's where she shot him because there was
it
so
was
much going on. I mean, it was just,
it wasn't
yeah.
that wasn't clear.
Cause I saw blood on his leg, and I was like, "Oh, maybe she shot him in the arttery there, and he's gonna bleed out
Right.
and
Right.
die." I
Because
didn't
I
know
thought he
that
was
Yeah,
was.
going to die.
Ken doll. And I was like, oh,
exactly.
she
Hmm.
did. Oh, she cut.
Okay.
She was, oh, yeah.
Okay.
Right. That's kind of what I was thinking too. But so that's what I was saying. So of course I'm looking at the little commentary part for this particular episode, and they they were definite about not having Joe die. In fact, they said that the worst thing that could happen to him would be for him to live alone. And so that's why we see him, but he's not in solitary. That's Jim Bob, right? That's not
Right.
solitary, you know.
And he not going to be alone.
He's
He
just
not going
in
to be
the
alone
regular
long.
jail. He's not gonna be
He's not,
alone
because the women are
totally.
gonna be writing
Belinda,
him, and he'll
Belinda
just
going to marry
fall
him
in
in a
line.
jailhouse wedding. I mean,
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. So
He
he's
gonna
not
seduce
in.
the nurse and then get out.
Yeah, of course,
something
he
going to
always
happen.
gets out. That's
Something's gonna
exactly what's
happen.
gonna
Yeah.
happen.
Like, I don't,
But yeah,
I think
they
the
say that, and then they said, what was the
I
other
mean,
thing
how many
that they
people has
said?
Joe killed, and they think it's okay for him just to sit there? He shouldn't even be allowed to get letters. Like,
Oh, yeah. So no, he shouldn't be. So the other thing that they said was to Dana's point, and that's it to all of our point kind of, but they said, well, we tried not to be preachy with that last thing, but we did want to make a point, about the whole, you're watching this and you are, and that's why I say, is this a commentary on our love of violence, right? Also, it kind of makes me think about the show Found on NBC, which I love that show. But, part of the reason that we like this show is we like this kidnapper who's, who's, obsessed still. He's not over his kidnapping. And that's the other thing. Joe is not over his, serial killing ways. In fact, this season is the first season, y'all, that he's really said that he likes killing. He's never really said that until this season. It's always been about, he's
White
protecting
Knight.
people. Exactly. The whole
Hmm.
white knight syndrome. And it's still that way here, but he likes it.
But
He likes. So
do
I
you
don't
think,
think.
because I think the biggest, like, lingering thing was the scene with Henry when he's in the bed with her. He turns around and he looks at the burns on her arm, and you see the look on his face. And so, do you think that that was part of the setup for a series that deals with Henry in the after? Because now we do know both of his parents were killers, and his father liked killing. So, do we think that those kinds of things are set up for like a nurture versus nature, but seeing how young Henry evolves? Do we think that's why that scene was one of the last ones we saw?
I mean, I think it's a possibility. I know Penn Badgley is not going to be doing this no more. He said that, but can they take this story on, and can that be an avenue? Possibly, yes. I think, and I also think that is why why we really see all the survivors, because there's a possibility, maybe not with Marianne because we don't care, but there's a
oh, we care about
possibility.
the other ones.
We don't care about the other ones either. But what I'm saying
Watching
is
no, I'm not
Marion
watching
doesn't
She. I'm
have
not watching
she doesn't
Louise. I'm not watching her. I'm not watching anything that has anything to do with any of these females and their stories outside of these shenanigans. I'm not finna.
so
I absolutely
so
refuse.
not that we're gonna watch it, but what I'm saying is that with Mary Ann, her story is definitely in completion, in my opinion. Like, to me, like I said about Bronte, I'm like, there's a possibility
No, but that's what I'm saying. If they named the show
Hell,
She, if they named it Her, if they
It's
named it
me. It's called
Louise, I don't
me.
care
it's
what
called
you
me.
name
Yeah.
me. I don't care what you name it. I'm not watching the
Yeah.
flip side of those shenanigans.
Right. No, nobody's here. Nobody here is going to do it. But I'm saying for showrunner possibilities, like how you're kind of saying about the Henry thing, the showrunner possibilities. I think they've got more than just Henry for show continuing possibilities. Now, will we watch that? No. I'm totally in agreement
No,
with Marcy
no.
on that. We are not gonna watch that. But I think,
Well, they make it like a Dexter kind of thing. He would be
yeah,
older and attractive and and out killing people and some whatever. So I think they would do it kind of a Dexter
right,
way
a
if they
Dexter
did
kind
it.
of thing. Yeah, yeah. I can
But
see
yeah.
that happening too.
I
I
hope
can see
not.
that happening.
We need to add. I personally would add a disclaimer to this. Like, I don't advocate for violence
None
in
of us
real life
advocate for
at
violence.
all. I just want to say because I know sometimes I'm like they should have killed. I'm just saying that for the show.
We know you
Yeah,
butthurt.
this is okay. I'm glad you said that disclaimer, but this is fiction. This is a
Exactly.
show.
I just
We're
want
not
people to
talking about
know
real
because
life.
people take 2 seconds of what you just said and then blow it
Yeah, they
up.
do. They do.
No.
No. This is, we're talking about a show, and we're talking about a story and how a story should play out, and we think the story should have played out differently, and some of us think that the story should play out where Joe is not around. But with all that being said, I mean, we've talked about this for a good
Oh,
little while
wow,
here,
wow.
a lot longer than I thought we were going to talk about this, since
Longer
we
than it
did not
deserved.
like it. Right, exactly.
I
Since
had to
we
switch
did not
devices.
like this, but and Marcy, I hope I can edit this and do you justice. I'm just going to say right now, I am not a professional.
I could, friend. Sorry.
But I will give everybody a chance to rate this. And we're going to use our Goodreads rating for this one. Even though we're rating this show, we're not rating the book. A Goodreads is a book thing, but our star rating is from 1 to 5. 1, we did not like it. 2, it was okay. 3, we did like it. 4, we really liked it. And 5, we thought it was amazing. And yes, you can rate in between those. So Stacy, says you giving me that look like, why did I even say 5? What are you rating it?
I might rate it a 1.5, possibly a 2, just for the very end when he said, we was reading the letter and it said, it's you. And I was like, yeah, it was all of us. They kept this going for 5 seasons. And it was a good finger up to everybody that y'all caused this. And that was
Yeah.
that was it. And that was just the end. I'm not going to, I can't say we're going to do it for whole 5 seasons. I wouldn't do it that low, but at least for, this last season, I'll say 1.5.
Okay. So Dana, what about you for this last season, or and if you just want to in general do a rating? What's your rating?
My rating is a 1.
Yes, I got you.
My rating is a 1, and in all honesty, I thought season 4 was bad, and I didn't like it, and so I didn't even finish watching it. So the fact that season 5 even began and then it did not get any better, it only kept going downhill. I can't give it anything higher than a 1. And the 1, I'm not even sure why I'm giving it that. I just think for a minute. I'm sure some. Oh yes, Reagan. Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
Reagan, Maddie. Yeah,
Yeah. So
twins.
I think otherwise it just shouldn't have been made. One thing I don't know if we pointed out, and I don't know how this plays into it because I didn't like season 4 either, but I did read that the showrunner changed. I don't know if it was the assistant showrunner or something, but changed on this one. So I don't know if that played into any of this or not. But I just, a 1. I hate giving stuff that low because I know people work hard, and as much as we joke about stuff, not liking it, everybody works hard for what they're doing. I don't think anybody really didn't put in the time. I don't think they didn't try their best. It didn't go over well. It wasn't, what I expected or what I wanted it to be.
Marcy, what about you? What are you rating this season? Maybe even overall, and why?
I'm gonna give it a 1.25, and again, most of that 0.25 is because of Amanda Camp. It's really because I feel like she deserves some credit for her efforts within the space, and I feel like had that been utilized differently, I might have had a different feeling. But yeah, it wasn't. If you haven't started, I wouldn't say start now, because if this is what you're gonna get at the end, it seems kind of like a bad recommendation. It or at least stop at 3, and you'll get the same effect. Really, it'll feel about the same. So I would say that stop at 3, but for 5, I don't think I've ever given a 1 before. But this one, it's 1.25 at best, because it didn't. I felt like the pace was off. I felt like it was far too long. I felt like we lingered in the wrong places. I felt like we rushed through the wrong parts. And then I feel like at the end we were just like, here you go. And then I think, as we were just supposed to rejoice for, women's lib. And I feel like it was all kind of jumbled up together, and I didn't. But I am Team Teddy, and so I was glad that he made out good in the end. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. I am going to give this one a 1.5 also, which was the lowest I've ever given anything. But there are a couple reasons which we did not necessarily touch on, but now that I'm thinking about rating, it's kind of making me think back to what Dana was saying about, you know, the show kind of doing a rehash kind of thing. And, that is fine for back in the day, old school shows. I kind of remember there's this one particular Star Trek episode where Will Riker gets impaled by some kind of thing in the leg. And so he has these memories because it's affecting his brain. The thing that impales him, it's affecting his brain. So basically, they use that as a vehicle to go over all of these best of Will Riker kind of episodes, right? And that works if you have a 26 episode season, which we had back in the day, and maybe possibly that, actor or actress or something like that, or maybe they're trying to do a transition with that actor or actress, or that storyline needs a transition or something, or they just basically need a break and they've run out of story. I mean, which is what I think was kind of the issue there. They just needed a break and they didn't have all their actors, so they just ran out of story. But for something like this, something kind of a tight 10 episode kind of thing, you can't do that. Every episode needs to have meaning. It needs to keep pace, like Marcy said. It needs to keep us in there, especially in the way that this is coming out, which is Netflix, which is all the episodes are coming out at one time. So if we are watching these all at one time, we don't want to do what Data did, which is fall asleep. Like, you have to keep us engaged. So you cannot do one of these, I'm going to bring out all my old, lovers, and they're going to sit here and yell at me in front of this cage. Like, no, you can't do that with this. And so I think they fail there, because that is not the way we watch TV. At least that's not the way we watch this kind of TV show anymore. So you can't do that. So the expectations for me are higher going in, and you've messed up with the expectations. Also, for me, I kind of think that when they did do the whole we're going back to New York kind of thing, I didn't think it was going to be that rehash. I thought it would be kind of elevated and actually give us even a little more cunning and a little more, because Joe is actually in the spotlight now. I really would have liked to see him maybe even evolve into a kind of a Dexter character, right? If he's going to stay alive at the end. We needed to see him up his game, not fumble through this like, he's an amateur. He seemed like he was more together in season 1 than he does now. And he's got cameras on him. Really, what disgusted me the most, though, there's 2 things that disgusted me the most. One, which we've already talked about, which is the women going, parading the women, basically. I just didn't like that. Parading the women in the scene with the cage and parading the women at the end without showing that these women are going to have struggles and they need mental health representation. That bothered me. The second thing that also bothered me is when it, and Stacey mentions it as a joke, but I also this kind of irritates me because, mediocre white man, in other words, getting away with something. He just puts on a hat, goes out to the newspaper stand one day and is vilified. They change the story. He goes out to the newspaper stand with his hat the next day. They're looking at him. Oh, hey, Joe. So he takes off his hat and he's all good. None of us on this podcast looking like we do would ever have that happen to us. We get canceled for something frivolous, then we are canceled, right? like the end. And it will stay with us. That bothered me too. There were some frustrating things in here, but those 2 things were really frustrating. But the reason why, and the reason why I'm giving it 1.5 versus maybe 0 is, like everybody else has said, Amanda Camp as Reagan and Maddie. That was very entertaining for me to watch. And I agree with Marcy that if that had been the through line, maybe, and Bronte not even be there, and that had been the total through line, and it had been like the Lockwoods breaking down and Joe breaking the Lockwoods down and, all that kind of stuff. And we stay with the whole 1%, because the Lockwoods in themselves, if they had actually played that right, that could be the whole season. And it could have ended, yes, on 8 episodes. And that could have been the whole season. And that could have worked. And also, it kind of would have been a little thrill, right? Because as Dana has said, Joe is just this ordinary guy. Wouldn't it have been kind of interesting to see him break down this 1% family, right? And, do this kind of from the inside. But that's a whole nother can of worms. That's a whole nother story. I'm an author. I'm a fiction author. These are the kinds of things that I think about. So with that being said, we have talked so long that our recording software has said, are you still there? So we are going to end this one. We are going to end this one. And I just want to say, ladies, thank you so much for hanging out with me, for indulging this season 5. Even though I'm going to say I indulged y'all for season 1. This is not what this podcast is about. This is nerdy romantics, which none of this is nerdy or romantic. I indulged y'all for season 1, but
it's toxic romantic.
Right. Toxic. Thank y'all for indulging me for season 5.
You're welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Always a pleasure.
Hi. Want to get show notes from this and future episodes in your inbox? Then subscribe to Nerdy Romantics newsletter at nerdyromanticspodcast.com/subscribe. Nerdy Romantics newsletter not only has show notes, but nerdy and romantic recs and sneak peeks and exclusives of my spicy, nerdy romances and love stories. I love talking sci-fi, superheroes, fantasy, and romance books, movies, and shows with my friends. So share this podcast with your nerdy romantic friends. Thanks for listening and for watching.